The note slid across the table so smoothly the Mafia boss almost missed it, until he saw the message that could ignite a war. Your woman betrayed you. His pulse stopped, his men tensed, and the server who delivered it suddenly vanished into the crowd. But the real trap was hidden behind that message. He realized someone wanted him to find this message. But why now? And who else already knew the truth? My order pad trembled in my grip as I approached the table where Death was dressed in designer silk and a blood-red gown. The folded note hidden beneath the menu felt like it weighed 1,000 pounds. One warning, one moment, one choice that would either save the most dangerous man in the city or mark me for execution. Good evening, I managed, my voice somehow steady despite my racing heart. And can I start you off with? The Mafia boss didn't look up, but she did. Ella Willow's ice blue eyes slid over me with the kind of boredom that came from a life where people like me were furniture. Her red lips curved into something that wasn't quite a smile as she returned to her phone, diamonds glittering at her throat like drops of frozen blood. Behind them, the golden glow of Aurelio Grand's chandeliers cast everything in warm, expensive light, the kind of light that made murder look beautiful. 15 minutes earlier, I'd been catching my breath in the staff corridor, hand pressed against the cool wall, trying to steady my nerves after dealing with a difficult table. That's when I heard her voice drifting from the women's restroom, low and urgent and absolutely not meant for anyone else's ears. He'll be sitting with his back to the window, Ella Willow whispered, her words sharp as broken glass. Your men know the signal, right? Just wait until I text you. I froze, every instinct screaming at me to move away, to pretend I'd heard nothing. What about his guards? A man's voice, rough and impatient. They'll be distracted. Her tone dripped with certainty. Just fire when you see the lights flicker. Kill him fast. We can't afford another mistake. My stomach dropped so violently, I thought I might be sick right there in the hallway. The bathroom door was slightly ajar, and through the gap, I could see 3 figures, Ella and 2 men in dark suits, their postures tense and focused. One of them had something metallic tucked under his jacket. The overhead light caught it for just a second, but that second was enough. I pressed myself against the wall, praying they wouldn't turn around, wouldn't see me standing there like a fool with my empty tray and wide eyes. My breath came too fast, too loud in my own ears, but somehow they didn't notice. Ella's perfume, something expensive and cloying, drifted into the corridor as she stepped out, the men following close behind. Only when their footsteps faded toward the dining room did I dare to move. Back on the floor, it took me less than a minute to see what I'd missed before. The man at the bar nursing the same untouched scotch for 20 minutes. The 3 men positioned near the kitchen entrance whose eyes tracked movement instead of menus. The tension humming beneath the restaurant's refined atmosphere like a live wire waiting to spark. And at the center of it all, the Mafia boss, the man everyone in the city either feared or pretended not to know existed. I grabbed my order pad with shaking hands and scribbled the words that would either save us both or end me. Your woman betrayed you. They are ready to strike. Now I stood beside their table, the note tucked beneath the leather menu folder, my pulse hammering so hard I was certain everyone in the restaurant could hear it. Can I get you started? I asked again, placing the folder in front of him. The Mafia boss's hand moved with casual grace, lifting the menu with 2 fingers. The note slid free, landing face up on the white tablecloth for just a heartbeat before he covered it with his palm. His eyes, dark and dangerous and calculating, scanned the words. Nothing changed in his expression. Not a flicker, not a flinch. Just the smallest tightening of his jaw, so subtle I might have imagined it if I wasn't watching him like my life depended on it. Because it did. Baby, Ella purred, leaning toward him with practiced affection. Should we order the... Stay. The word was barely above a whisper, but it cut through everything. He wasn't looking at Ella. He was looking at me, and his gaze held mine with the weight of a command I couldn't disobey, even if I wanted to. My feet obeyed before my brain caught up. I stayed, clutching my pad to my chest, feeling the eyes of every suspicious man in the room suddenly tracking toward our table. The Mafia boss folded the note with methodical precision and slipped it into his jacket pocket. When he spoke again, his voice was smooth as aged whiskey. "I think we'll be changing our order tonight." The lights flickered. My heart stopped. "Get down!" I didn't think. I lunged, slamming into the Mafia boss's shoulder with all my weight, just as the window behind him exploded in a shower of glass and screaming. The bullet tore through the space where his head had been half a second earlier. Crystal shattered. Ella's shriek pierced the chaos. People were diving under tables, scrambling for exits, the entire restaurant erupting into pandemonium. But I barely heard any of it. Because the Mafia boss had wrapped one arm around me and pulled me down, his body shielding mine as more gunfire cracked through the air. His other hand had already drawn a weapon I hadn't seen him carrying. His security closed in like a wall of lethal precision, returning fire toward the window, toward the bar, toward the kitchen. "Don't move!" the Mafia boss growled against my ear, his grip iron tight on my wrist. His voice was cold, controlled, terrifying in its calm. "Don't you dare move!" Another shot. Someone screamed. Glass continued to rain down around us like deadly snow. And I realized with crystalline clarity that the note I'd written had just started a war. And I was trapped right in the center of it, held down by the one man who now knew I'd saved his life and seen his woman's betrayal. The sirens came fast, their wail cutting through the night like a knife through silk. But by the time the first patrol car screeched to a halt outside Aurelio Grand, the Mafia boss's men had already transformed the crime scene into something else entirely, something controlled, sanitized, safe for their boss. I was still on the floor, the Mafia boss's arm a steel bar across my shoulders, when his security chief, a mountain of a man with a scar bisecting his left eyebrow, appeared beside us. "Clear, boss. 3 down in the kitchen. 1 at the bar tried to run. He won't be running anywhere anymore." The Mafia boss's grip on me loosened fractionally. "The shooter? Gone. We're tracking him now." "And her?" The Mafia boss's voice dropped to something deadly quiet. I didn't need to look to know he meant Ella. "Vanished. Last seen heading toward the staff exit during the first shot. We have men." "Find her!" The words came out like a death sentence. "I want her found within the hour." Only then did the Mafia boss release me, rising to his feet with the fluid grace of a predator. He extended one hand down toward me, and I stared at it for a moment, my mind still catching up to the fact that I was alive, that we were both alive, that I'd just tackled a Mafia boss to save his life. I took his hand. His grip was firm, warm, and utterly controlled as he pulled me up. Around us, the restaurant looked like a war zone. Shattered glass glittered across tables and floors like deadly snow. Overturned chairs, abandoned purses and phones. A few patrons still huddled under tables, crying softly. But the bodies? I didn't see any bodies. The Mafia boss's men had already removed them. "I need to," I started, my voice shaking. "I need to go home. I need to." "You're not going anywhere." I blinked up at him, finally seeing him clearly now that the chaos had subsided. He was tall, intimidating in a way that had nothing to do with height and everything to do with presence. His tailored suit was dusted with glass and plaster, but somehow he still looked immaculate, dangerous. His dark eyes held mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "I'm sorry," I whispered. "You're a target now, Florence." He said my name like he'd known it all along, like he'd memorized it the moment I'd started my shift. The moment you slid that note across my table, you became part of this. The moment you saved my life, you painted a target on your back. But I didn't. I was just. My words tumbled over themselves, panic rising in my chest like floodwater. I was just trying to help. I'll tell them I didn't see anything. They already know. The Mafia boss gestured toward the shattered window. Every one of those men saw you tackle me. Whoever hired them knows you're the reason I'm still breathing. Do you understand what that means? I did. God help me, I did. Two police officers entered through the main doors, and I instinctively took a step back. But the Mafia boss's hand shot out, catching my wrist. Not painful, but absolute. Marco will handle them, he said quietly. You stay with me. I watched in stunned silence as his security chief approached the officers with the kind of easy confidence that came from having done this 100 times before. Papers materialized from nowhere. Business cards, statements already typed and ready for signature. The officers looked frustrated but not surprised, like they'd known before they even arrived that this scene would be locked down tighter than a bank vault. Where's Ella? I asked, my voice barely audible. Your girlfriend. Where? Gone. The single word was laced with so much cold fury that I actually flinched, which tells me everything I need to know. A black SUV pulled up to the restaurant's entrance, its windows tinted so dark they looked like they'd been carved from obsidian. The Mafia boss's hand moved from my wrist to the small of my back, guiding me forward with gentle but inexorable pressure. Wait, no, I can't just leave. I have to give a statement, I have to. Your statement has already been given. He nodded toward Marco, who was handing one of the officers a folder. You were in the restroom when the shooting started. You saw nothing. You know nothing. But that's not. It's safer. His voice dropped lower, meant only for me. Trust me, Florence. The less the police know about what you heard, what you saw, the better chance you have of surviving the night. The SUV's door opened, revealing leather seats and the kind of interior that cost more than my annual salary. I hesitated at the threshold, every instinct screaming that getting into this vehicle was a mistake, that I should run, should scream, should do anything except follow a Mafia boss into the dark. I saved your life, I said, hating how my voice shook. Doesn't that mean you owe me? Doesn't that mean you should let me go? For the first time since I'd met him, something almost like respect flickered across the Mafia boss's face. It means I'm keeping you alive. Get in the car, Florence, please. The please surprised me enough that I climbed inside. He slid in beside me, and the door closed with a heavy thunk of reinforced steel. Two more SUVs bracketed ours as we pulled away from Aurelio Grand, forming a motorcade that screamed danger and power in equal measure. I stared out the window, watching the restaurant disappear behind us, watching my normal life recede like a dream I was waking up from. Where are we going? Somewhere safe. Your place? My penthouse, top floor, security on every level. You'll stay there until this is resolved. And if I refuse? I asked, even though I already knew the answer. The Mafia boss didn't respond. He didn't need to. We drove in silence through Manhattan, the city lights blurring past like memories I couldn't quite catch. My phone buzzed in my apron pocket. I'd somehow managed to keep it through the chaos, and I pulled it out with trembling fingers. Unknown number. The message made my blood turn to ice. You ruined it. We saw you. You're next. Attached was a photo, my apartment building. Taken tonight, the timestamp read 9:47 p.m., right around the time I'd been sliding that note across the Mafia boss's table. The phone was plucked from my hand before I could process what I was seeing. The Mafia boss read the message, his jaw tightening with each word. Then, without warning, he crushed the phone in his fist. The screen shattered, plastic cracking, the device dying with a pathetic electronic whine. "Hey!" I yelped. "That was your lifeline to the people trying to kill you." His voice was pure ice. "You don't use phones anymore. You don't contact anyone. You don't exist outside of my protection until every single person involved in tonight is buried." He let the destroyed phone drop to the SUV's floor. I stared at the broken pieces, then at him, then at the city passing by outside. And for the first time since I'd overheard Ella Willow plotting murder in a restaurant bathroom, I understood the truth. I hadn't just saved the Mafia boss's life. I'd sold him my own. The penthouse was everything I'd expected, and nothing I'd prepared for. Modern, cold, all glass and steel and sharp edges that seemed designed to remind you that softness had no place here. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked Manhattan, like the city was something to be owned rather than lived in. Security cameras tracked every corner, their red lights blinking like predatory eyes. Armed guards stood at the elevator entrance, the stairwell access, even the hallway leading to what I assumed were bedrooms. I'd walked from one cage into another, except this one had a better view. The Mafia boss guided me through the main living area, all black leather and chrome, not a personal photograph or warm touch in sight, and into what looked like a private office. Dark wood desk, high-backed chairs, a wall of monitors displaying security feeds from what had to be a dozen different locations. "Sit," he said, gesturing to the chair across from his desk. I remained standing. I'd rather not. His eyes flicked to mine, sharp and assessing. For a moment, I thought he'd force the issue. Instead, he moved behind the desk and loosened his tie with one hand, the other already reaching for a crystal decanter filled with amber liquid. "Talk," he said, pouring 2 fingers of what was probably whiskey that cost more than my car. "Everything you heard, every word. Don't leave anything out." My hands curled into fists at my sides. "I already told you. Tell me again." He didn't raise his voice, but the command in it was absolute. "From the beginning. What were you doing before you heard them?" I exhaled slowly, trying to steady the tremor in my voice. "I was on my break. In the staff corridor near the bathrooms. I'd just dealt with a difficult table and I needed a minute to breathe. And I heard voices. Her voice." I closed my eyes, pulling the memory back even though everything in me wanted to shove it away. Ella. She was in the women's restroom with 2 men. The door was cracked open maybe an inch. I could see them through the gap. The Mafia boss took a slow sip of his whiskey, his gaze never leaving my face. "What did she say?" "Exactly." "She said, 'He'll be sitting with his back to the window. Your men know the signal, right? Just wait until I text you.'" The words tasted like poison on my tongue. "One of the men asked about your guards. She said they'd be distracted. Then she said—" I swallowed hard. She said, "Just fire when you see the lights flicker. Kill him fast. We can't afford another mistake." The glass in the Mafia boss's hand cracked. Not shattered, just cracked. A thin spiderweb of fractures spreading across the crystal from the pressure of his grip. A single drop of blood welled up from his palm where a shard had pierced skin. "Another mistake," he repeated, his voice dropping to something deadly soft. She said another mistake. Yes. I took an involuntary step back at the rage rolling off him in waves. "I'm sorry, What else?" He set the damaged glass down with careful precision, his bleeding hand forgotten. "What else did you hear, Florence? Think." That was it. She mentioned something about a signal, the lights flickering, and then she switched languages, something I didn't understand. It sounded like, I don't know, maybe Russian, Italian. I couldn't tell. How many men were with her? 2, both armed. I saw one of them had a gun under his jacket. The Mafia boss's jaw clenched so tightly I heard his teeth grind. He pulled out his phone, apparently he had more than one, and fired off a rapid text. Seconds later, the office door opened and a man entered. Older, silver-haired, with the kind of face that had seen too much and stopped caring about it. "Vincent," the Mafia boss said without preamble. "The building across from Aurelio Grand, the shot came from there." 15th floor, corner window facing the restaurant, Vincent confirmed, his voice gravelly. "We found the nest. High-powered rifle, still warm, professional setup. Shooter was gone before we got there, but he left enough behind to confirm it was planned days in advance. Maybe longer." The Mafia boss's hand curled into a fist on the desk, his blood smearing across the dark wood. "And the woman?" "Still searching. But boss—" Vincent's eyes flicked to me, then back. "The server was right. We found evidence of coordination. Text sent from a burner phone inside the restaurant to a number that pinged off a tower near the sniper's location. Timing matches her story exactly." "Of course it does," the Mafia boss said coldly, "because Ella planned every goddamn second of it." The rage in his voice made something in my chest tighten. This wasn't just about betrayal. This was personal in a way I hadn't understood before. "I need to go home," I said suddenly, the words bursting out before I could stop them. "You have what you need. You know I told you the truth. You have your men looking for her. I need to go home. Check on my brother. Make sure—" "No." The single word hit me like a physical blow. "What do you mean, no?" Anger flared hot in my veins, burning through the fear. "You can't keep me here. I'm not your prisoner. I helped you. And now they want you dead." The Mafia boss stood, moving around the desk with the fluid grace of something dangerous. "Did you not see that text? Did you not see the photo of your apartment building? They know where you live, Florence. They know your name. They probably know your schedule, your routines, where your brother goes to school." My blood turned to ice. "Don't you dare. I'm not threatening you." He stopped directly in front of me, close enough that I had to tilt my head back to meet his eyes. "I'm telling you the reality of your situation. If you leave here, you die. If you go home, you lead them straight to your family. If you try to run, they'll find you before dawn. Your only chance, is to stay here where I can protect you." "Until when?" I demanded, hating the way my voice shook. "Until you find Ella, until you kill everyone involved. How long am I supposed to hide in your fortress?" "Until it's safe. And if it's never safe?" Something flickered in his expression, not quite sympathy, but close. "Then you stay alive longer than you would have anywhere else." I wanted to scream, wanted to throw something, wanted to rage against the unfairness of it all, that I'd tried to do the right thing and now I was trapped in a penthouse with a man who killed people for a living. Instead, I lifted my chin and met his stare head-on. "Fine, I'll stay, but only until dawn. When the sun comes up, I'm leaving whether you like it or not. I'll figure out my own protection." The Mafia boss studied me for a long moment, and I could have sworn I saw the ghost of respect in his dark eyes. "Dawn," he agreed finally. "We'll discuss it again at dawn." Vincent cleared his throat from the doorway. "Boss, we got a hit on one of Ella's credit cards. Hotel in Queens. Want me to—" "Send everyone." The Mafia boss's voice went arctic. "I want her alive. I want to hear her explain this myself." As Vincent left, the Mafia boss turned back to me, and I saw it then. The fury, the betrayal, the cold calculation of a man who'd just realized the woman he trusted had tried to put a bullet in his skull. "Get some rest, Florence," he said quietly. "You're going to need it." But as I followed one of his guards to a guest room, I knew sleep wouldn't come, because dawn was only hours away, and I had no intention of staying past it. I didn't sleep. How could I, knowing that somewhere out there, people wanted me dead? That my apartment, my safe space, The tiny studio I'd scraped together rent for every month was being watched by assassins? That my little brother Marcus might answer the door tomorrow to find men with guns instead of his sister coming home? The guest room was pristine and cold, all white linens and minimalist furniture that looked like it had never been touched. I sat on the edge of the bed, fully clothed, watching the city lights blink through the floor-to-ceiling windows, waiting for dawn like it was a lifeline. A sharp knock interrupted my spiral of anxiety. "Come in," I called, my voice hoarse. The door opened to reveal the Mafia boss, still in his suit from the restaurant, though he'd finally removed his jacket and rolled up his sleeves. The white bandage wrapped around his palm, where the glass had cut him, stood out starkly against his skin. "I need you to see something," he said without preamble. I followed him back to the office, my exhaustion making everything feel surreal and disconnected. Vincent was already there, along with another man I didn't recognize, younger, tech-savvy looking, fingers flying across a laptop keyboard. "Show her," the Mafia boss commanded. The young man pulled up security footage on the large monitor mounted to the wall. I recognized it immediately. The interior of Aurelio Grand, the timestamp reading 10:47 p.m., just minutes before the shooting. "Watch the woman in red," Vincent said, pointing. Ella Willow appeared on screen, laughing at something on her phone, her diamond necklace catching the light. She looked so normal, so perfectly content. The Mafia boss sat beside her, his attention on something Vincent was saying to him from off-screen. Then Ella's expression shifted, just for a fraction of a second. Her eyes flicked toward the window, then toward the bar, then back to her phone. Her thumb moved across the screen. Texting. "Timestamp on that message," the tech guy said. 10:48 p.m., 18 seconds later. The lights flickered on screen. My stomach dropped. "Oh my God." "Keep watching," the Mafia boss said, his voice completely devoid of emotion. I appeared on screen next, approaching their table with the menu. I could see my own fear, the way my hands trembled slightly as I set the folder down. The Mafia boss lifted it, found my note. His expression changed, and Ella saw it. Her eyes went wide for just a heartbeat. Then she leaned in, started to say something, probably trying to distract him to salvage the plan. That's when the first shot came. The footage showed me lunging, the window exploding, chaos erupting. But what I hadn't seen in the moment, what I'd been too terrified to notice, was Ella's reaction. She screamed, ducked under the table, but not before her hand shot to her purse and pulled out a phone I'd never seen her use before. Another burner. She typed something frantically, then shoved it back inside. "She texted her people the moment the plan failed," Vincent explained. "Warned them to abort. Told them to get out." "How do you know what she texted?" I asked. The tech guy grinned. "Because we found the phone she texted. She ditched it in the bathroom trash on her way out. Rookie mistake." The Mafia boss moved to the window, his back to us, his shoulders rigid with tension. "What did it say?" "Plan failed, target alive, server interfered. Abort and eliminate witness." Vincent read from his own phone, his voice flat. "That witness is you, Florence." The room spun slightly. "She ordered them to kill me." "Yes." The Mafia boss didn't turn around. "Show her the rest." More footage appeared on screen, this time from outside the restaurant. Ella fleeing through the staff exit, her red dress a blur of color against the dark alley. A black sedan pulled up. She climbed inside without hesitation. "We traced the car," Vincent said, "registered to a shell company linked to the Giordano family." The Mafia boss's hand clenched against the window frame. "Marco Giordano." "Your old partner," Vincent confirmed quietly. I looked between them, trying to understand. "Who's Marco Giordano?" "Someone I trusted." The Mafia boss's voice was ice. "Someone I made very wealthy." Someone who apparently decided he'd rather see me dead than share territory. And Ella? He finally turned to face me, and what I saw in his eyes made my breath catch. Not just rage, pain. Raw, bleeding pain that he was trying desperately to hide behind cold calculation. Ella was... He stopped, his jaw working. She was supposed to be different. The silence that followed told me everything he wouldn't say. He'd loved her, or thought he did, and she'd sold him out for money or power or whatever the hell people like that traded lives for. How long were you together? I asked softly. 2 years. He looked away again. 2 years of lies. Vincent shifted uncomfortably. Boss, we also found evidence in her apartment, burned phones, encrypted laptops, cash, lots of it. She's been planning this for at least 6 months. 6 months of pretending. 6 months of sharing his bed, his secrets, his life, all while plotting his murder. Why? I heard myself ask. Why would she do this? The Mafia boss laughed, but there was no humor in it. Money. Power. Giordano probably promised her both. Maybe she was with him before me. Maybe this whole thing, us, was just part of the setup from the beginning. He poured himself another drink, this one disappearing in a single swallow. You're the only one who heard them, he said, turning to me with sudden intensity. You're the only one who can testify to exactly what Ella said, who she was with, what they were planning. Without you, it's just circumstantial evidence. With you, you can prove she tried to have you killed, I finished. Not just prove it. His voice dropped to something dark and promising. I can make her answer for it. A chill ran down my spine. What are you going to do to her? Whatever I have to. He set the empty glass down. But first, I have to find her. And until I do, you stay here. You stay protected. Because you're not just a witness anymore, Florence. You're leverage. Leverage? Ella knows you heard everything. Giordano knows you saved my life. If they want to silence you badly enough, they'll come looking. And when they do, his smile was predatory. I'll be waiting. You're using me as bait, I said slowly, horror dawning. I'm keeping you alive, he corrected. There's a difference. Vincent's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then at the Mafia boss. Ella just used a credit card, different hotel, Brooklyn this time. She's running. Send a team. I want eyes on her within the hour. The Mafia boss turned to the tech guy. Monitor every communication device within a 3-block radius of that hotel. If she makes a call, I want to hear it. As they scrambled to follow orders, the Mafia boss looked at me with something that might have been regret. I'm assigning 2 guards to you full-time. They'll stay outside your door tonight, accompany you everywhere during the day. Don't fight me on this. I wasn't planning to, I admitted. Because what was the point? He was right. Ella had ordered my death. Somewhere out there, trained killers were looking for me. Good. He moved toward the door, then paused. Florence? Thank you for the warning, for saving my life. I know you didn't ask for any of this. No, I agreed quietly. I didn't. But as he left, and I returned to my cold, pristine room, with 2 armed guards now stationed in the hallway outside, I realized something terrifying. I was trapped in the Mafia boss's world now, and the only way out was through. Dawn never came. I mean, the sun rose. I watched it climb over the Manhattan skyline from my prison of a guest room. But the freedom I'd promised myself dissolved with the morning light. Because at 6:47 a.m., my temporary phone buzzed with a message that changed everything. The Mafia boss had given me a burner. Only for emergencies, he'd said. Only people who have this number are me and my security team. So when it lit up with a text from an unknown number, my blood turned to ice before I even read the words. 848 West 23rd Street, Apt 4B. That's where you live, isn't it? Florence? My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the phone. A second message followed immediately. An image. My apartment building, photographed in daylight, this morning had to be, with a red circle drawn around my fourth-floor window. My bedroom window. The third message was worse. We know your schedule. We know your brother's school. We know everything. You should have minded your business. I must have made a sound, a gasp, a whimper, something, because within seconds, the guards burst through my door, weapons drawn. What happened? The taller one demanded. I couldn't speak, could only thrust the phone toward them with trembling hands. The shorter guard took one look and muttered a vicious curse. Get the boss, now! 3 minutes later, the Mafia boss stood in my doorway wearing nothing but black dress pants and an undershirt, his hair slightly mussed from sleep, his expression murderous as he read the messages. When did this come through? His voice was too calm, the kind of calm that preceded violence. Just now, maybe 5 minutes ago. I wrapped my arms around myself, suddenly freezing despite the room's comfortable temperature. They know where I live. They know about Marcus. Your brother's already protected. He cut me off, still staring at the phone. I sent men to watch him last night. He's safe. You what? Did you think I'd leave a loose end? He finally looked up at me, and something in his expression softened fractionally. The moment you saved my life, you became my responsibility. That includes everyone you care about. I didn't know whether to be grateful or terrified. I need to call him. I need to tell him. No. The Mafia boss handed the phone to one of the guards. Trace this. I want to know where it was sent from and who's holding the device. Use every resource we have. On it, boss. As the guards left, the Mafia boss moved into the room, and I became acutely aware that I was still in yesterday's work clothes, rumpled and stained with God knew what, while he looked like some kind of dangerous fallen angel in the early morning light. Pack whatever you brought, he said. You're moving to the master suite. What? No, I'm fine here. The master suite has reinforced windows, a panic room, and direct access to my security system. This room, he gestured around us, has standard glass and is too far from my office. If they come for you, I need you somewhere I can reach in seconds. They're not going to, I started, but even I didn't believe it. They already tried once at the restaurant, he reminded me, his voice hard. They sent you those messages to terrorize you, to make you panic, to make you run. And the moment you step outside this building, they'll put a bullet in you. So no, Florence, you're not fine here. You're moving. Now. I wanted to argue. Wanted to scream that this was insane. That I was a server, not some mafia princess who needed panic rooms and bodyguards. But the photo of my bedroom window kept flashing through my mind. They'd been that close. While I was here, they'd been photographing my home. Okay, I whispered. Okay. By noon, I'd been relocated to a suite that looked like it cost more than I'd earn in a lifetime. King-sized bed with black silk sheets, a bathroom with a shower that could fit 6 people, a walk-in closet already stocked with clothes in my size, which should have creeped me out, but instead just made me feel more like a doll being arranged in someone else's dollhouse. I was examining the panic room, a reinforced steel door hidden behind a bookshelf, when Vincent appeared in the doorway. Boss wants you downstairs, he said. We caught one of them. My stomach dropped. One of who? The men from the restaurant. The ones who tried to kill the boss. Vincent's expression was grim. He wants you to hear what this guy has to say. I don't want to. Wasn't a request. They'd set up the interrogation in what looked like a wine cellar converted into something far more sinister. Concrete walls, a single chair bolted to the floor, and in that chair, zip-tied and bleeding from a split lip, sat a man I recognized from the restaurant, one of the three who'd been positioned near the kitchen. The Mafia boss stood in front of him, his sleeves rolled up, his knuckles already bruised. He'd been working on this man for a while. "Florence," he said without turning around. "Come here." I forced my feet to move, though everything in me screamed to run. When I reached his side, the Mafia boss gestured to the bound man. "Tell her," he ordered. "Tell her what you told me." The hitman's eyes, one swollen nearly shut, found mine. He spat blood onto the concrete floor. "You're the girl, the one who ruined everything." "I didn't." "You gave him the note." The man's voice was thick with pain and rage. "You saved his life. Ella said the plan was perfect, said the boss would never see it coming. Then you had to play hero." "Who hired you?" the Mafia boss demanded, his voice cutting like a blade. "Giordano. Marco Giordano paid us 200 grand, split between the crew." The man laughed bitterly. "Would have been the easiest money we ever made. In and out, boss dead before dessert." "And Ella?" I found my voice. "What about her?" The hitman's one good eye focused on me with disturbing intensity. "She's the one who set the whole thing up. Met with Giordano 6 weeks ago. Gave him the boss's schedule, his security details, everything. She promised us the boss would be exposed, vulnerable. She was right. Except for you." 6 weeks. The words echoed in my head. Ella had been planning this for 6 weeks while sharing the Mafia boss's bed. "Where is she now?" the Mafia boss asked, his voice dropping to something arctic. "Don't know. She went dark after the restaurant. Giordano's looking for her too. She was supposed to confirm the kill, collect her payment. She vanished instead." The hitman grinned through bloody teeth. "Maybe she grew a conscience. Or maybe she's just smart enough to know what happens to people who fail him." "And the girl?" The Mafia boss's hand settled on my shoulder, possessive and protective at once. "What were your orders regarding her?" The hitman's grin widened. "Eliminate on sight. Giordano wants her gone. She's the only witness who can connect Ella to the plot. Dead girls can't testify." The room spun slightly. I felt the Mafia boss's grip tighten on my shoulder, steadying me. "How many men does Giordano have hunting her?" he pressed. "At least 6. Maybe more by now. He's offering 50 grand to whoever brings him proof she's dead." $50,000. That's what my life was worth to these people. A bounty. A transaction. "Thank you," the Mafia boss said pleasantly. "You've been very helpful." "So you'll let me go?" The hitman actually sounded hopeful. The Mafia boss smiled. It was the most terrifying thing I'd ever seen. "No." He turned to Vincent. "Make sure he doesn't contact anyone. We're not done with him yet." Then he guided me out of the wine cellar, his hand still on my shoulder, and I realized with crystal clarity that I'd never be going home. Not to my apartment, not to my old life, not to the version of Florence George who worried about rent and worked double shifts and thought saving someone's life was a good thing. That Florence was gone, and in her place stood someone worth $50,000 dead. I was staring at the panic room door, memorizing the code the Mafia boss had given me, 4729, his voice echoing. "If anything happens, you get inside, and you don't come out until you hear my voice." When Vincent burst into the master suite without knocking, "Turn on the TV," he said, his face ashen. "Any news channel, now." My stomach dropped before I even reached for the remote. The screen flickered to life, and there she was, Ella Willow, looking devastated and vulnerable in an oversized sweater, her blonde hair artfully disheveled, her blue eyes red-rimmed as if she'd been crying for hours. The caption read, "Mafia boss's girlfriend speaks out after restaurant shooting." "Oh God," I whispered. "It gets worse," Vincent muttered. Ella dabbed at her eyes with a tissue, facing a reporter whose expression radiated sympathy. I can't believe this is happening," she said, her voice breaking perfectly. I loved him, I trusted him, and then I found out about her. The screen cut to a photo. My photo. My employee ID from Aurelio Grand, blown up to fill the screen, my face looking tired and ordinary next to Ella's polished beauty. Florence George, the reporter said in that serious tone they reserve for scandals. A 25-year-old server at the restaurant where the attempted assassination took place. According to Ms. Willow, Florence had become obsessed with her boyfriend over the past several months. No, I breathed. No, no, no. She would find excuses to serve our table, Ella continued, fresh tears spilling down her cheeks. She'd stare at him when she thought I wasn't looking. I tried to be understanding. She's young, he's powerful, I get it. But then she started slipping him notes. The camera zoomed in on Ella's face, capturing every tremor of false emotion. The night of the shooting, I saw her hand him something. A note. Minutes later, his security started acting strange, and then… She covered her face with her hands. Then the shooting started. God, I think she set the whole thing up. Maybe she thought if I was out of the picture, she'd have a chance with him. Or maybe she just wanted to hurt us both. I don't know. All I know is that I barely escaped with my life. You lying bitch, I hissed at the screen. The reporter leaned in, all concerned professionalism. Are you saying Florence George orchestrated the assassination attempt? I'm saying the police should look very closely at her. Ella's voice hardened just slightly, enough to sound righteous rather than vindictive. She was the only server who came to our table that night. She was the one who gave him that note right before everything went wrong. And now I hear she's staying at his penthouse. Her voice cracked. While I'm in hiding, terrified for my life, she's moved into my home. The screen switched to the news anchor, whose expression suggested this was the juiciest story they'd covered all year. Police have not confirmed whether Florence George is a suspect, but sources close to the investigation say she is definitely a person of interest. We reached out to representatives for the alleged target of the assassination, but they declined to comment. Meanwhile, Ms. Willow says she's cooperating fully with authorities and plans to leave the country for her own safety. More on this developing story as… The TV went black. I turned to find the Mafia boss standing in the doorway, remote in hand, his expression carved from stone. How long has this been up? He asked Vincent, his voice deadly calm. Posted 20 minutes ago. It's already gone viral. Every major outlet is picking it up. Vincent pulled up his phone. Twitter's trending with hashtag jealous server and hash Mafia love triangle. It's bad, boss. Get our lawyers on it. I want that interview scrubbed from every platform within the hour. The Mafia boss's jaw clenched. And find out what station aired it. I want to know who paid for that airtime. Boss, with all due respect, taking it down might make it worse. Streisand effect and all. I don't care. His voice cracked like a whip. Get it done. Vincent nodded and disappeared, leaving me alone with the Mafia boss and the crushing weight of what had just happened. She's destroying me, I said, my voice hollow. She tried to kill you, and now she's destroying me. She's trying to. The Mafia boss moved closer, and I realized his hands were shaking, not with fear, but with rage barely contained. She's not going to succeed. Everyone thinks I'm some obsessed psycho who set you up. A laugh bubbled out of me, edged with hysteria. My face is on every news channel in the city. My name, The reality hit me all at once. My brother, oh God, Marcus is going to see this. His friends, his teachers, everyone at his school. Florence. They're going to think his sister tried to assassinate someone. My breathing was coming too fast, the room tilting sideways. They're going to think I'm a criminal. I'll never get another job. I can't. Florence. The Mafia boss's hands closed around my arms, firm but not painful, grounding me. Look at me. I couldn't do anything but spiral into the catastrophic future Ella had just created for me with a few tears and some well-placed lies. Look at me, he repeated, softer this time. I forced my eyes up to meet his, and what I saw there wasn't anger or calculation or cold strategy. It was something raw and almost vulnerable. Concern, real concern, bleeding through his carefully maintained control. I won't let her do this to you, he said, each word deliberate. I won't let her paint you as the villain when you're the only reason I'm alive. Do you understand me? How are you going to stop it? My voice broke. She's already won. Everyone believes her. She's beautiful and tragic, and I'm just, I'm nobody. I'm a server who was in the wrong place at the wrong time. You're the woman who saved my life. His grip tightened slightly. You're the woman who saw through her lies when I was too blind to. You're the reason I'm standing here right now instead of dead in a restaurant. You are not nobody, Florence. Tears burned behind my eyes, and I hated it. Hated that I was breaking down in front of him. Hated that Ella had reduced me to this. She's going to get away with it, I whispered. She tried to have you killed, and she's going to walk away while I'm branded a criminal. No. The word was absolute, a vow carved in steel. She's not. I'm going to find her before she leaves the country. I'm going to make her tell the truth. And then, his expression went dark, promising violence I probably didn't want to imagine. Then she's going to answer for everything she's done. To me, to you, to both of us. What if you can't find her in time? I will. He released one of my arms to cup my face, forcing me to hold his gaze. I promise you, Florence, Ella Willow will not escape this, and she will not destroy you. I won't allow it. The conviction in his voice, the intensity in his eyes, for the first time since this nightmare began, I almost believed him. Why? The question escaped before I could stop it. Why do you care? I'm just someone who happened to overhear something. You could throw me to the wolves, let them believe Ella's story, wash your hands of all of this. Something shifted in his expression, something I couldn't quite read. Because you didn't have to warn me, you didn't have to tackle me when that bullet came through the window. You could have walked away and let fate handle it, but you didn't. You saved my life knowing it would cost you yours. His thumb brushed away a tear I hadn't realized had fallen. Nobody's done that for me in a very long time, maybe ever. The moment stretched between us, intimate and dangerous and far too real. Then his phone buzzed, shattering it. He stepped back, checking the screen, his expression hardening. They tracked Ella's location, Brooklyn Hotel, just like the credit card indicated. She's still there. Then go, I said, trying to steady my voice. Go get her. I'm not leaving you alone, not after that broadcast. He was already texting rapid-fire orders. Vincent will stay here with a full security team. You don't leave this suite. You don't answer the door for anyone except me. Understood? I nodded, wrapping my arms around myself. The Mafia boss moved toward the door, then paused, looking back at me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. She's not going to win, Florence, he said quietly. I promise you that. Then he was gone. And I was left alone with the wreckage of my reputation and a promise from a Mafia boss that somehow felt like the only solid thing in my rapidly disintegrating world. The Mafia boss returned 3 hours later empty-handed and radiating a fury so cold it made the penthouse feel like a tomb. She was gone, he said, pouring himself a drink with controlled violence. Checked out 20 minutes before we arrived. Someone tipped her off. Vincent stood nearby, looking grim. We have a leak. Obviously. The Mafia boss downed the whiskey in one swallow. The question is who? Pull the security footage from every entrance. I want to know who's been in and out of this building for the past 48 hours. Cross-reference with phone records. Someone's feeding Ella information, and I want them found. On it. Vincent hesitated. Boss, there's something else. We pulled Giordano's phone records. He's been in contact with more than just Ella. The Mafia boss's eyes sharpened. Who? DeLuca, Torino, Castellano. Vincent listed the names like he was reading a death warrant. All your former associates, all the families you cut deals with when you consolidated the East Coast territories 5 years ago. The glass in the Mafia boss's hand cracked, not from pressure this time, but because he'd slammed it against the desk. They're working together, he said, his voice lethal. This isn't just Giordano trying to take me out. This is a coordinated coup. I'd been sitting quietly in the corner of the office, trying to be invisible, but now I felt the full weight of what that meant. This wasn't about one betrayal. This was about an entire network of powerful men who wanted the Mafia boss dead, and I was caught in the middle of it. How many men do they have combined? The Mafia boss asked. Vincent checked his phone. Conservative estimate? 200, maybe more if they pull in soldiers from the outer territories. And us? 75 loyal. Another 30 we're not sure about. They might flip depending on how this plays out. The Mafia boss laughed, but it was the sound of something breaking. So, they think they can bury me with numbers. They think because they're working together, they've already won. Boss, Vincent started. Call everyone in. The Mafia boss's voice cut through the air like a blade. Every captain, every lieutenant, everyone who's sworn loyalty to me. I want them here in 2 hours. We're having a meeting. Here? Vincent looked alarmed. Boss, if there's a leak, then we'll find out who it is when they try to report back to Giordano. The Mafia boss's smile was predatory. Set it up. Conference room. 2 hours. And Vincent. He paused. Bring Florence. My head snapped up. What? No, I shouldn't be. You're the only person in this building I know isn't compromised, he said, turning that intense gaze on me. You're coming to the meeting. You're going to see exactly what kind of war you've walked into, and then you're going to understand why you can't leave, why you'll never be safe until every single person who tried to kill me is dead. 2 hours later. I found myself in a conference room that looked like it belonged in a Fortune 500 company, all polished wood and leather chairs and a view of Manhattan that cost more than most people's houses. Except instead of executives, the room was filled with killers. 15 men, all dressed in expensive suits, all carrying weapons they didn't bother to hide. They watched me with varying degrees of curiosity and suspicion as I took a seat in the corner, as far from the table as I could get. The Mafia boss stood at the head of the table, Vincent at his right hand. And when he spoke, every conversation in the room died instantly. Gentlemen, he said, his voice calm and controlled. We have a problem. He activated a screen on the wall and surveillance photos appeared. Giordano, DeLuca, Torino, Castellano. All of them meeting in what looked like a warehouse, all of them looking very pleased with themselves. These men, my former associates, my former allies, have decided I've had control of the East Coast for too long. They've decided that together they can take what's mine and divide it among themselves. The Mafia boss's voice never rose, but the menace in it made several of the men shift uncomfortably. They hired assassins. They recruited my girlfriend to betray me. They've been planning this for months, maybe longer. A murmur ran through the room. The assassination attempt at Aurelio Grand was supposed to be clean, quick, untraceable. He gestured to me, and suddenly every eye in the room was on me. This woman, Florence George, overheard the plot and warned me. She saved my life. And now they want her dead because she's the only witness who can connect Ella Willow to the conspiracy. One of the men, a gray-haired captain with scars running down his neck, spoke up. With all due respect, boss, Why are we protecting a civilian? Why not just hand her over, tell them it was a misunderstanding? Because I don't negotiate with people trying to kill me, the mafia boss said, his voice dropping to something dangerous. Because the moment I show weakness, the moment I let them think they can threaten someone under my protection, I've already lost. Florence stays alive. Anyone who has a problem with that can leave now. Silence. No one moved. Good. The mafia boss pulled up more images, phone records, financial transactions, surveillance footage. Here's what we know. Giordano's coordinating the operation. DeLuca's funding it. Torino's supplying the weapons. Castellano's providing the manpower. Together, they think they're unstoppable. What's the plan, boss? Vincent asked. The mafia boss's smile was terrifying. We're going to remind them why I control the East Coast. We're going to hit them before they can regroup. We're going to take out their operations one by one until they're begging for mercy. And we're going to make sure every family from here to Boston knows exactly what happens when you betray me. What about the Willow woman? Another captain asked. She's still out there, still talking to the media. We're working on that. The mafia boss's expression darkened. But Ella's not the priority right now. Finding the leak is. One of Giordano's people knew we were coming to that hotel. Someone told them. Someone in this organization is feeding them information. The room erupted in angry denials. I don't know who it is yet, the mafia boss continued, his voice cutting through the noise. But I will find out, and when I do, they'll wish the assassins had gotten to them first. Vincent's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, then leaned in to whisper something to the mafia boss. The mafia boss's expression went arctic. When? 10 minutes ago. Confirmed location. He turned back to the room. Gentlemen, it seems our enemies have made another move. We just received intel that Ella Willow is holed up in a safe house in Queens, Giordano's safe house. And according to our source, the remaining hitmen from the restaurant attack are there with her. They're planning another attempt. This time, they're not going after me. His eyes found mine across the room. They're coming for Florence. My blood turned to ice. So here's what's going to happen, the mafia boss said, his voice calm despite the promise of violence in every word. We're going to that safe house. We're going to take Ella alive. I have questions for her. We're going to eliminate every hitman there. And we're going to send Giordano a message he can't ignore. He looked around the room, meeting each man's eyes. This is war, gentlemen, and we're going to win it. The men rose as one, a wave of lethal intent. The mafia boss crossed to where I sat, still frozen in my chair. You'll stay here, full security detail. Vincent's second in command will be stationed outside the suite. Do not leave. Do not answer the door. Do not... Be careful, I interrupted, surprising myself. Please, just be careful. Something flickered in his eyes, something almost soft. I'll come back, Florence. I promise you that. Then he was gone, taking 15 armed men with him, leaving me alone in a penthouse that suddenly felt far too empty. I moved to the windows overlooking the city, watching the lights blur together, and realized with startling clarity that I was worried about him, about the mafia boss, about the man who'd killed people, who ruled through fear and violence, who'd pulled me into a nightmare I couldn't escape, but who'd also promised to protect me, who'd looked at me like I mattered, who'd held my face while I broke down and sworn that Ella wouldn't win. Come back, I whispered to the glass, to the city, to whatever gods watched over men like him. Please come back. Because somewhere between the note and the gunfire and the promises made in the dark, I'd stopped seeing him as just the mafia boss, and that terrified me more than anything else. Vincent's second in command, a stone-faced man named Marcus who looked like he could break someone in half without breaking a sweat, set up a laptop on the coffee table in the master suite. Boss wants you to see this, he said, his voice gruff but not unkind. Security feed from the operation. audio and video. He said you have a right to know how this ends. I stared at the screen as it flickered to life, showing multiple camera angles. Body cams worn by the Mafia boss's men, I realized. Night vision gave everything a greenish, ghostly quality. I don't know if I want to. Boss's orders, ma'am. Marcus stepped back, positioning himself by the door. I'll be right here if you need anything. Then the feed went active, and I was transported into the heart of a war zone. The safe house was in Queens, a nondescript warehouse in an industrial area where screams would go unnoticed and bloodstains could be washed away with a hose. The Mafia boss's voice came through the audio, calm and controlled as he positioned his men. Vincent, take your team around the back. Marco, cover the east entrance. No one gets out. No one escapes. We go in on my signal. I watched as 15 men moved like shadows through the darkness, weapons drawn, movements precise and coordinated. This wasn't the Mafia boss's first raid. This was a man who'd done this 100 times before. 3 targets confirmed inside, someone reported through the comm. Ella Willow and 2 male subjects, possibly more in the basement. Heat signatures? 6 total, 3 on the main floor, 3 below. The Mafia boss's face appeared on one of the camera feeds as he adjusted his own body cam. Even through the greenish tint of night vision, I could see the cold fury in his eyes. Move in, he ordered. The explosion came without warning. The front door blew inward in a shower of splintered wood and metal, flashbangs following immediately after. Even through the laptop speakers, the sound made me flinch. Screams erupted from inside, high-pitched, terrified, caught completely off guard. Go, go, go! The Mafia boss's men poured through the entrance like a flood, and then the gunfire started. Muzzle flashes lit up the darkness in strobing bursts. Someone was screaming. A man's voice, cut short by another burst of gunfire. Bodies dropped. The camera feeds showed chaos, overturned furniture, shattered glass, blood splattered across walls. 2 down on the main floor, Vincent's voice crackled through the comm. 1 runner heading for the basement stairs. I've got him. The Mafia boss's voice, still eerily calm. His camera feed showed him pursuing a figure down a narrow staircase. The man turned, weapon raised, but the Mafia boss was faster. 2 shots, center mass, and the runner collapsed. Basement secure, he reported. I've got 3 more down here, surrendering. My hands were shaking as I watched, unable to look away even though every instinct screamed at me to close the laptop, to pretend this wasn't happening. This was what he was. This was who he was. The man who'd promised to protect me was also the man who moved through that warehouse like death incarnate, eliminating threats with cold efficiency. Boss, we've got the woman, Marco's voice came through. 2nd floor, northwest corner. She was trying to climb out a window. Bring her down. Alive. The feed switched to Marco's camera as he dragged a struggling, screaming figure down a staircase. Even through the distorted video, I recognized her. Ella Willow, her blonde hair wild, her designer clothes torn and dirty, her face contorted with terror. They forced her into what looked like the warehouse's main room, now littered with debris and bodies. The Mafia boss stood in the center, weapons still drawn, his men forming a semicircle around 3 kneeling figures, the remaining hitmen from the restaurant, their hands zip-tied behind their backs. Please, Ella sobbed, her voice raw. Please, I can explain. Explain? The Mafia boss's voice cut through her pleading like a knife. Explain how you spent 2 years in my bed while planning my murder? Explain how you sold me out to Giordano for money? Explain how you tried to destroy an innocent woman to cover your tracks? It wasn't supposed to be like this. Ella's voice rose to a shriek. You don't understand. They made me do it. Giordano threatened me, said he'd kill me if I didn't help him. Liar. The word was soft but absolute. We pulled your bank records, Ella. $500,000 deposited into your offshore account 3 months ago. Another 200,000 last week. You weren't coerced, you were paid. Ella's face crumpled, tears streaming down her cheeks. You don't know what it's like. You don't know how hard it is to be with someone like you, always living in fear, always wondering if today's the day someone puts a bullet in you. So you decided to be the one who did it. The mafia boss moved closer, and even through the camera, I could feel the menace radiating from him. You decided to betray me, to sell me out, to try to have me killed in a public restaurant where innocent people could have died. It was supposed to be clean, Ella screamed. It was supposed to be quick, one shot and you'd be gone, and I'd be free. And Florence? His voice dropped to something deadly. What about her? Ella's eyes darted wildly. She ruined everything. She wasn't supposed to hear us. She wasn't supposed to warn you. This is all her fault. If she'd just minded her own business, none of this would have happened. So you tried to have her killed, the mafia boss said flatly. She overheard us. She knows everything. She's the reason your men are dead, the reason the plan failed. Ella's voice turned vicious. She should die too. She's just a nobody, a stupid server who thought she could play hero. The slap echoed through the warehouse like a gunshot. Ella's head snapped to the side, and when she looked back, blood trickled from her split lip. The mafia boss stood over her, his control finally shattered, his rage blazing across his face. You don't get to say her name, he growled. You don't get to blame her for your betrayal. Florence saved my life because she has more integrity in her little finger than you have in your entire body. She risked everything to warn me while you sat there smiling, waiting for me to die. She's nothing, Ella spat blood. She's a nobody who got lucky. She's worth 1,000 of you. The mafia boss crouched down, forcing Ella to meet his eyes. And she's under my protection, which means the people who tried to kill her answer to me. He stood, turning to the 3 kneeling hitmen. Who gave the order to eliminate Florence George? Silence. The mafia boss nodded to Vincent, who pressed a gun to the nearest hitman's head. Giordano, the man screamed. Giordano gave the order, 50 grand to whoever brought him proof she was dead. And where is Giordano now? I don't know, I swear. Wrong answer. The mafia boss's voice went flat. Vincent. Wait, the hitman sobbed. He's at his estate in Jersey. He's there with DeLuca and Torino, planning the next move. Thank you. The mafia boss looked at Vincent. Send a team. I want all 3 of them brought here. Alive if possible, dead if necessary. Boss. Ella's voice was small now, broken. What are you going to do with me? The mafia boss looked at her for a long moment, and what I saw in his expression wasn't rage anymore. It was something colder. Disappointment. Finality. You're going to call every news outlet that aired your interview, he said quietly. You're going to tell them you lied. You're going to clear Florence's name. You're going to confess to everything. The assassination plot, Giordano's involvement, all of it. You're going to do it on camera, and it's going to air tonight. And if I refuse, the mafia boss's smile was terrifying. Then your body washes up in the Hudson, and I release the evidence anyway. Your choice, Ella. Redemption or oblivion. Ella stared at him, and I watched the exact moment she realized she'd lost. That there was no bargaining, no escape, no way out except the one he was offering. I'll do it, she whispered. I'll do it. The feed cut to black an hour later, after Ella had made her confession. Sobbing, broken, admitting everything on camera, while the mafia boss watched with cold satisfaction. I sat in the dark master suite, my whole body numb, trying to process what I'd witnessed. The door opened. The mafia boss stood silhouetted in the hallway light, still in his tactical gear, blood spattered across his shirt. It's over, he said quietly. Giordano, DeLuca, and Torino are dead. Their organizations are scrambling, Ella's confession will air within the hour. Your name will be cleared. I should have felt relief, should have felt grateful. Instead, I just felt hollow. You killed them, I whispered. Yes. All of them. Everyone who tried to hurt you. He moved into the room, and I finally saw his face clearly, exhausted, streaked with dirt and blood, but alive. Everyone who put a price on your head. They're gone, Florence. You're safe now. Safe. The word felt foreign, impossible. What happens now? I asked. The Mafia boss looked at me with an expression I couldn't quite read, something raw and honest and almost vulnerable. Now, he said softly, you get to choose. The morning after the raid, I stood in the master suite surrounded by clothes I'd never asked for, in a penthouse I'd never chosen, staring at a life I no longer recognized. Ella's confession had aired at midnight. By dawn, every news outlet in the city was running retractions. Server falsely accused. Mafia girlfriend admits to assassination plot. Florence George, hero or victim? My phone, a new one the Mafia boss had given me after crushing the compromised burner, had been ringing non-stop. Reporters, former co-workers, people I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly eager to hear my story, to get the exclusive on what it was like to save a Mafia boss's life. I'd turned it off after the 15th call. Now I stood at the window watching the city wake up, the same city I'd lived in my entire life, and felt like a stranger in my own skin. You're free to go. I turned to find the Mafia boss standing in the doorway, dressed in a crisp black shirt and tailored pants, looking every inch the dangerous man he was. But there was something different in his expression, something softer, more uncertain than I'd ever seen before. What? I whispered. The dangers passed. He moved into the room with that same fluid grace that had terrified me days ago, but now felt almost familiar. Giordano's organization is in shambles. The other families know what happens when someone tries to take me down. Ella's confession cleared your name. The bounty on your head is gone. You can go home, Florence. Back to your apartment, your life, your brother. Back to normal. Normal. The word sounded like a foreign language. Just like that? I heard myself ask. After everything, I just walk out and pretend none of this happened? Not pretend. He stopped a few feet away, maintaining distance like he was afraid to come closer. You'll always carry this with you, but you don't have to stay trapped in it. You didn't choose this life. You don't belong in this world. I know that. He was giving me an exit, a clean break. The thing I'd been begging for since the moment his guards forced me into that SUV outside Aurelio Grand. So why did it feel like my heart was being ripped out? I've arranged for security to watch your building for the next few months, he continued, his voice carefully neutral. Just as a precaution. And I've taken care of your back rent. Don't argue, he added quickly when I opened my mouth. Consider it payment for saving my life. Your brother's school tuition is covered for the next 4 years. There's also a fund set up in your name, enough to make sure you never have to work another double shift at a restaurant, unless you want to. You're paying me off, I said, the words tasting bitter. I'm making sure you're taken care of. His jaw tightened. You lost your job because of me. Your face was plastered across every news channel because of me. You spent days terrified for your life because you had the decency to warn me about an assassination plot. The least I can do is make sure you're not drowning in debt when you leave. Leave. He kept saying that word like it was inevitable, like there was no question I'd walk out that door and never look back. Maybe there shouldn't be a question. I turned back to the window, watching a woman on the street below walking her dog, laughing at something on her phone. Normal, simple. Safe. Everything I used to be. I should pack, I said quietly. I'll have someone bring you bags. He left, and I stood there in the empty room that had been my prison and my sanctuary, trying to figure out why my hands were shaking. An hour later, my meager belongings were packed into a designer suitcase I'd probably never use again. A black SUV was waiting downstairs, not to trap me this time, but to take me home. Back to my fourth-floor walk-up with the leaky faucet and the neighbors who played music too loud and the life I'd built from nothing. I should have been relieved. Instead, I felt like I was suffocating. The Mafia boss appeared in the doorway one last time, and I realized this was it. This was goodbye. In a few minutes, I'd walk out of this penthouse and probably never see him again. He'd go back to his empire of violence and power, and I'd go back to worrying about rent and picking up shifts and pretending I hadn't spent days in the arms of a man who killed people without hesitation. "The car's ready," he said softly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. He moved to pick up my suitcase, and our hands brushed. The contact sent electricity through me, the same visceral awareness I'd felt when he'd pulled me down during the shooting, when he'd held my face while I broke down, when he'd promised to protect me like it was an unbreakable vow. Florence. My name on his lips sounded different than when anyone else said it. Reverent, important. Thank you. For everything. For the warning. For saving my life. For surviving this nightmare I dragged you into. You're... He paused, something vulnerable flashing across his face. "You're extraordinary. I hope you know that." "I'm really not," I whispered. "I'm just a server who heard something she shouldn't have. You're a woman who risked everything to do the right thing." His dark eyes held mine with an intensity that made my breath catch. "That's rarer than you think, especially in my world." My world, not our world, because I didn't belong here. He'd made that clear. "I should go," I said, even though my feet wouldn't move. "Yes." But he didn't step back, didn't release my gaze. "You should." The silence stretched between us, heavy with all the things neither of us was saying. All the moments we'd shared in the darkness, the fear, the rage, the strange intimacy of two people trapped in a nightmare together. The way he'd looked at me like I mattered. The way I'd worried about him when he left for that raid. The way I felt safe with a man who was anything but safe. "What if—" I started, then stopped, terrified of the words trying to escape. "What if what?" His voice was soft, careful, like he was afraid of spooking me. "What if I don't want to go?" The confession hung in the air between us like a grenade with the pin pulled. The Mafia boss went very still. "Florence, the outside world doesn't feel safe anymore," I continued, the words tumbling out in a rush now that I'd started. "Everything out there, my apartment, my old job, my old life, it all feels like something that happened to someone else. Like I'm supposed to put on a costume and play the part of the person I was before. But I don't know how to do that anymore. I don't know how to pretend I didn't see what I saw, didn't feel what I felt." "What did you feel?" he interrupted, moving closer, his expression intense. "Safe," I whispered. "With you. Even when I was terrified, even when I watched you kill people on that security feed, even when every rational part of my brain was screaming that I should run, I felt safe. Because you promised to protect me, and you did. You kept your word. You didn't let them hurt me." "Florence, you can't—" He stopped, seeming to struggle with something. "You can't stay here because you feel safe. You can't choose this life, this darkness, just because you're scared of what's out there. You deserve better than—" "Better than what?" I challenged, finally finding my courage. "Better than a man who killed for me, who cleared my name, who made sure my brother would never have to worry about money again? Better than someone who looks at me like I'm worth protecting, instead of like I'm just another body taking up space?" His hand came up, cupping my face the way he had before, his thumb brushing across my cheekbone. You deserve a normal life, a safe life, not this. He gestured around the penthouse, at the security cameras and the armed guards and the world of violence he inhabited. Not me. What if I don't want normal? The question came out barely above a whisper. What if I want this? Want you? For a long moment, he just stared at me, something raw and desperate and almost anguished in his expression. If you stay, he said finally, his voice rough, there's no going back. You'll be part of this world, my world. The danger, the violence, the constant looking over your shoulder. You'll be tied to me in ways that can't be undone. Do you understand that? I understand. Florence, I saved your life, I interrupted. You saved mine. Maybe that means something. Maybe we're already tied together in ways that can't be undone. Maybe… I took a breath, steadying myself. Maybe I'm supposed to be here. The Mafia boss's eyes searched mine, looking for doubt, for fear, for any sign that I didn't mean what I was saying. He wouldn't find it, because somewhere between the note and the gunfire and the promises made in the dark, I'd stopped seeing him as just the Mafia boss, and started seeing him as mine. If you stay, he said softly, his forehead resting against mine, you stay with me, not as a guest. Not as someone under my protection. You stay as mine. Do you understand what that means? Yes. And I did. Terrifyingly, completely, I did. Then stay, he whispered, and it sounded like a prayer. Choose me. Choose this. Choose us. So I did. I let the suitcase fall to the floor, let the possibility of my old life slip away like smoke, and stepped into the darkness with the man who'd held my life in his hands from the moment I slid that note across his table. The Mafia boss kissed me then, fierce and desperate and claiming, and I kissed him back with everything I had. Outside, the city continued its morning routine, oblivious. But here, in this penthouse above it all, Florence George made a choice that would change her forever. She chose the Mafia boss. She chose the darkness. She chose a love forged in violence and sealed with a promise that could never be broken. And for the first time since this nightmare began, she felt like she was finally home. If you're ready for the explosion coming in the next story, smash subscribe, hit like, and stay close for more mind-blowing and exciting stories.